800,000 years of cryogenic slumber ended with blaring ship alarms and flashing red emergency lights. Peter Morgan, a grizzled human soldier, fell out of his cryopod and slammed onto the cold metal floor. His bones ached, his muscles were jelly. He wheezed and coughed, lungs burning as they sucked in stale, acrid air. His vision swam and head pounded. The ship's flickering lights revealed a scene of utter chaos. Sparks rained from ruptured conduits in the ceiling. Loose wires dangled and showers of electric sparks crackled and spat. Noxious smoke belched from air vents. Cryopods lined the walls, some shattered and empty, while others still hummed with sickly blue light. The ship's AI sputtered to life, its feminine voice glitching and distorted. Wake up, crew. Catastrophic system for failure. 800,000 years have passed in cryostasis. Location unknown. Repeat, 800,000 years. 800,000 years, Peter croaked, voice hoarse with disuse. His addled mind reeled. He shakily stood up, muscles quivering. He surveyed the cryo chamber and spotted his fellow crew members in various states of consciousness, soldiers in cryo armor and engineers in cryo suits. Some vomited, others dry-heaved. Hull breach imminent, the AI warned, voice crackling with static. Life support failing, oxygen levels critical. Estimate 72 hours until complete shutdown. Dread settled in Peter's gut like a ball of ice. After 800,000 years, they'd woken up just to suffocate to death. Unless they acted now. On your feet, people, move it, Peter roared, mustering his command voice. You heard, Mother. We got 3 days before we run out of air. Engineers, patch us up best you can. Grunts, grab your weapons. No telling what's out there. The crew snapped to, training taking over. Engineers dashed to access panels, prying them open to assess damage. Soldiers grabbed plasma rifles from weapon lockers and took defensive positions. A deep boom suddenly rocked the ship, then another and another. Something was pounding on the hull from outside. Hull breach in Sector 7, the AI screeched. Unknown vessel has attached itself to our airlock. Alien life forms detected. A cold sweat broke out on Peter's brow. Aliens? After 800,000 years, intelligent life had evolved, and apparently wanted humans dead. He gripped his rifle tighter, fingers finding the well-worn grooves. You two with me, he barked at a pair of soldiers. We'll give our new friends a warm human welcome. They crept to the airlock corridor and took cover behind bulkheads. The shriek of rending metal filled the air as the aliens cut through from outside. The airlock door blasted inward with a screech, flying off its hinges. Towering reptilian forms in high-tech armor poured through the smoke, fanning out with military precision. The leader was a hulking brute, his scales crisscrossed with plasma scars. He fixed his slitted eyes on Peter and curled back his lips, baring serrated fangs. Surrender now, apes, the alien snarled in choppy English. Qatarian Empire owns Galaxy now. You relics have no place here. Peter leaned out and leveled his rifle. I got your surrender right here, ugly. He opened fire. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air as Peter and the other human survivors took cover behind makeshift barricades of overturned tables and equipment crates. They returned fire with their own salvaged weapons, the ship's corridors lighting up with deadly energy crossfire. The Qatarians pushed forward relentlessly, their superior numbers threatening to overwhelm the human defenders. Fall back to the databanks, Peter shouted over the din of battle. Don't let these bastards get what they want. He ducked as a plasma bolt nearly took his head off, then popped up to blast a Qatarian soldier, dropping him with a sizzling hole in his scaly chest. As the humans gave ground, Peter noticed the Qatarians splitting into two groups, one laying down suppressing fire while the other moved toward engineering. They're after something specific, he realized with a sinking feeling. Whatever it was, they couldn't let it fall into enemy hands. Bravo, team, on me. We gotta lock down engineering. The rest of you, protect those data banks with your lives. Peter and a squad of soldiers and engineers fought their way to the engineering section, sealing blast doors and erecting barricades. The Qatarians were hot on their heels, trading shots every step of the way. Suddenly, Peter found himself face-to-face plate with the scar-faced alien leader from before, Primus. They both fired simultaneously, plasma bolts colliding mid-air in a blinding flash. The feedback explosion knocked their weapons from their hands, sending them skidding across the floor. Without hesitation, they lunged at each other, colliding in a fierce tangle of limbs. Primus was taller and stronger, his natural reptilian hide as tough as body armor. But Peter had a lifetime of combat experience and the reflexes of a trained killer. They grappled and pummeled each other, smashing into bulkheads with bone-rattling force. Primus raked his claws across Peter's face, drawing blood. Peter retaliated with a headbutt, his armored helmet cracking the Tarian's jaw. "Your species is nothing, ape," Primus spat, gobs of blood splattering Peter's visor. "The Katarian Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. You and your kind are just dust and echoes." White-hot rage surged through Peter's veins. He poured all his grief and fury into his aching muscles, driving a punch into Primus's throat, then slamming a knee into his groin. As the Katarian doubled over, Peter grabbed him by his armor and spun, using the lizard's own momentum to send him crashing face-first into a bulkhead. Peter pinned Primus there, twisting one of the alien's arms up behind his back until it creaked. "Dust and echoes, huh? This is for the human race, you son of a bitch." He reared back his fist to cave in Primus's skull. When suddenly the entire ship bucked and heaved, an explosion from somewhere deep within nearly knocking him off his feet. Primus took advantage of the distraction to break free, shoving Peter away and staggering back. The Katarian's eyes went wide as he looked at something over Peter's shoulder. What is that?" Primus hissed. Peter spun around and froze. There, emerging from the shadows of the smoke-filled corridor, was a skittering flood of insectoid robots swarmed into the ship through the damaged hull, their metallic carapaces gleaming in the flickering emergency lights. Segmented limbs ended in razor-sharp blades and glowing energy weapons. The machines attacked indiscriminately, slicing and blasting at both humans and Katarians alike. Peter and Primus dove for cover as a barrage of searing energy bolts stitched the bulkhead behind them. The hiss and sizzle of vaporized metal filled the air. "Looks like we got a common enemy now," Peter growled, grabbing a fallen plasma rifle. "Truce?" Primus bared his fangs but nodded. "Truce for now." They popped up from cover, unloading on the advancing robots. Plasma bolts splashed off the machine's armored shells, but a few well-placed shots found weak points, blasting the robots into sparking scrap. In engineering, Peter's crew frantically worked to restore systems. Fingers flew over holographic keyboards as diagnostic windows flashed red with critical failures. "These things aren't Katarian," an engineer shouted over the blaring alarms. "They're after something on board, some kind of artifact in the cargo hold." Peter keyed his comm. "Guard that hold at all costs. Don't let those bugs get to it." He and Primus moved through the ship in a running battle, falling back by leapfrogging sections. One would lay down covering fire, while the other sprinted to the next choke point. Servos whined and sparks flew as they left piles of shattered machines in their wake. They fought their way into the cargo hold, a cavernous chamber filled with crates and containers. There, hovering in the center in a stasis field, was the artifact. A jagged crystalline structure the size of a man's torso, pulsing with an otherworldly inner light. "What the hell is that?" Primus hissed. "Trouble," Peter replied grimly. "Big trouble." With an electronic chittering, the robot swarm poured in from all sides, skittering over crates and dropping from the ceiling. They converged on the artifact like moths drawn to a flame. Peter and Primus went back to back, hammering the horde with plasma fire. Robots fell in droves, but more always took their place, crawling over the sparking remains of their brethren. Razor limbs slashed and stabbed, finding the gaps in Peter's armor. Blood ran hot down his skin. "Any time now, people," Peter barked into the comm. "Force fields coming online, or now!" An engineer's voice crackled back. With a thrumming whine, shimmering barriers snapped into place over the entrances, slicing several robots clean in half. The swarm threw themselves at the force fields, scrabbling against them, but couldn't get through. In the sudden quiet, Peter and Primus stood panting and bleeding, weapons trained on each other. The artifact pulsed between them, beckoning with its eldritch glow, holding secrets that could reshape the galaxy. They locked eyes, a human and a Ktarian, ancient enemies, both realizing the same truth. Whoever controlled that artifact would hold the fate of worlds in their hands. Peter reached out a trembling hand toward the pulsing crystalline artifact. Its otherworldly glow bathed the cargo hold in shimmering, ethereal light. Primus watched warily, muscles tensed, ready to spring into action at the slightest provocation. Suddenly the artifact flared with blinding radiance. Both Peter and Primus recoiled, shielding their eyes. A holographic projection emanated from the artifact, coalescing into the form of a human woman dressed in the uniform of a high-ranking Earth military officer. Her face was lined with determination, eyes hard as flint. "I am Admiral Nora Solis, commander of Earth's last interstellar fleet," the hologram declared, voice ringing with authority. "If you are seeing this message, then our mission has failed. Earth has fallen to the Zorgons." Peter's breath caught in his throat. Earth fallen? It couldn't be. His home, his family, as all gone. Admiral Solis continued grimly. "This artifact is a key component of an ancient weapon, capable of destroying entire star systems. The Zorgons sought to claim it and use its power to exterminate humanity. We led them on a chase across the galaxy while our scientists dismantled the weapon and hid its components on remote worlds." Her eyes bored into Peter's, as if she could see him across the centuries. If this artifact falls into the wrong hands, it could mean the end of all life in the galaxy. It must be destroyed at any cost. That duty now falls to you. With those final words, the hologram winked out, leaving them in stunned silence. Primus rounded on Peter, eyes gleaming with avarice. "Hand over the artifact, ape. The Ktarian Empire has the right to wield such power. We will rule the galaxy with it." Peter stepped back, tightening his grip on his rifle. "No, you heard the Admiral. This thing's too dangerous. It has to be destroyed before it dooms us all." "Fool," Primus snarled. "I will pry it from your cold, dead hands." The Ktarian warlord lunged, claws outstretched. Peter met him head-on, smashing the butt of his rifle into Primus's jaw with a sickening crunch. They crashed to the deck, grappling and trading blows, the artifact's glow painting their blood-splattered faces in harsh, shifting shadows. "Damn you!" Peter roared, slamming a fist into Primus's throat. "Don't you see, if we fight over this, we're no better than the Zorgons. We have to end this now." Primus raked his claws across Peter's face, drawing ragged lines of blood. "The Ktarian Empire bows to no one, least of all some relic from a dead species. The artifact will be ours." As they wrestled for dominance, the deck shuddered beneath them. With a shriek of tortured metal, the cargo bay doors buckled and deformed. The robot swarm burst through in a glittering tide of razor limbs and blazing energy weapons. Proximity alarms blared as the swarm skittered toward the artifact, their single-minded purpose overriding any threat. Destroy, destroy, destroy. Peter and Primus froze, hatred momentarily forgotten in the face of annihilation. The robots swarmed over crates and containers, eating through metal and plastic like acid. In seconds, they would reach the artifact. The two warriors locked eyes, chests heaving. The moment stretched for an eternity, the fate of the galaxy balanced on a knife's edge. Fight each other for the power to rule, even as the swarm closed in, or unite to deny that power to the destroyers. Time seemed to slow. The robots skittered ever closer, energy weapons thrumming. The artifact pulsed faster, brighter, as if in anticipation. Primus's claws flexed, itching to tear and rend. Peter's finger tightened on the trigger, hungry to unleash plasma hell. The future of worlds would be shaped by the choice they made in the next breath. Peter and Primus locked eyes, the weight of their decision hanging between them. The fate of the galaxy rested on their next move. With a curt nod, they turned as one to face the robotic horde, weapons blazing. "The reactor core!" Peter shouted over the din of screeching metal and sizzling plasma. We overload it. Take out the whole damn ship. Primus bared his fangs in a fierce grin. For once we agree, ape. They carved a path of destruction through the cargo hold, servos and circuits flying. The robots swarmed from all sides, a relentless tide of blades and blasters. Peter and Primus fought back to back, plasma rifles flaring, fists and claws rending metal. Step by blood-soaked step, they battled to the reactor room. Warnings blared and lights flashed angry red. The cylindrical reactor core thrummed with barely contained power, its surface latticed with pipes and conduits. "Cover me," Peter barked, holstering his rifle and sprinting to the control panel. His fingers flew over the keys, overriding safety protocols. Primus held the door, his armor dented and scorched, ichor oozing from a dozen wounds. Robotic limbs scrabbled at the threshold. Primus roared and kicked them back. "Hurry, human!" Peter typed in the final command. The reactor surged, its hum rising to a scream. Indicators spiked into the red. Alarms shrieked. "Run!" Peter yelled. They pelted through the shuddering ship, bulkheads groaning, consoles exploding in showers of sparks. The countdown blared through the crackling speakers. "Reactor overload! Abandon ship! Reactor overload!" The escape pod bay gaped ahead, a single pod still in its berth. They lunged for it, but a support beam crashed down, slamming Peter to the deck. Pain shot through his leg, bones snapping. He hauled himself upright, gasping, but his leg crumpled beneath him. Primus skidded to a halt, looking back. His slitted eyes widened. "Go!" Peter roared, shaking sweat from his eyes. "Tell them the truth. Don't let our worlds die for nothing." The Tarian hesitated. Then he surged forward, grabbing Peter's arm and heaving him toward the pod. Together they half ran, half stumbled, the ship coming apart around them. They reached the pod, Primus practically throwing Peter through the hatch. He made to follow, but the hull ruptured with a deafening boom. A hurricane of decompression sucked him back, slamming the hatch shut. "No!" Peter screamed. He scrabbled for the controls, but Primus's voice crackled over the comm. "You were right, human," the Qatarian coughed, the transmission distorted. "The truth must survive. Tell our story." With a bone-deep rumble, the pod launched, blasting free of the disintegrating ship. Peter craned to see through the viewport, his hands pressed to the plasteel. The ship shattered in a blinding flash, a miniature supernova blooming against the stars. The shockwave slammed into the pod, sending it tumbling end over end. Peter clung to the harness, teeth gritted, as the pod's stabilizers fought to compensate. As the glare faded, he saw only drifting debris where the ship had been. The artifact, the robots, Primus, all consumed in the maelstrom. Peter sagged back, grief and exhaustion crashing over him. It was over. It was done. But Primus's final words echoed in his mind. "Tell our story." He would. Even if it took another 800,000 years, he would make sure the galaxy remembered the sacrifices, remembered the heroes, human and Qatarian alike. Remembered that once, long ago, two warriors from worlds at war had stood together against the darkness, and in losing everything, had saved all. With a deep breath, Peter set his jaw and reached for the pod's navigation controls. There was work still to do. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.